Evelyn Hawthorne didn't believe in accidents. Success, power, order, those were the things she trusted. Nothing in her life was ever out of place. Her office was organized to a military standard. Her schedule ran with the precision of a Swiss clock. Even her emotions were arranged neatly, boxed up, sealed, shelved, and never opened. So when she arrived at the Hawthorne Industries lobby at 6:03 a.m. and heard humming echoing through the marble hall, she felt something she rarely allowed herself to feel. Annoyance. There, kneeling beside the company's pristine grand piano, was the night janitor, old, gray-bearded, scrubbing the floor like it owed him money. He was humming, of all things, a melody from Chopin's Nocturne Op. 9 number 2. She froze. A janitor humming Chopin. He paused, gave the instrument an appreciative glance, and murmured, "Beautiful thing, shame no one treats her proper." Her eye twitched. No one treats her proper. She treated it properly. She was the one who had personally selected and imported that piano. She played it after midnight when everyone had gone. It was her one luxury, her one escape from the rigid walls she had built around herself. She stepped forward sharply. "Excuse me." The man jerked, nearly toppling his bucket. "Ma'am," he blurted, "didn't mean to, was just cleaning." Clearly, she eyed the piano lid he had just polished. "You seem to have strong opinions about instruments. Do you play?" He hesitated too long. "I used to." She smirked. "Let me guess. Could have gone pro, but life got in the way." He looked at her, not with shame, not with defensiveness, but with amusement. "As a matter of fact, yes." She crossed her arms. "Chopin, then, if you're going to hum it, surely you can play it." He straightened slowly. "I could," he said carefully, "but I won't touch that without permission." Her eyebrow arched. Respect. Unexpected. She looked at the polished keys. Then back at him. Something in her twisted. Something reckless, rare, long dormant. She gestured at the bench. "Fine. If you play Chopin, I'll marry you." Silence. The words hadn't been planned. They flew out like a challenge. A joke. A dismissal of his absurd pride. She expected panic. Maybe laughter. Maybe stammering apologies. Instead, he wiped his hands, rolled his shoulders, and said, calmly, "Which piece?" The world tilted. Her mouth opened, closed. Was he serious? She scoffed, recovering her poise. "Chopin's Ballade No. 1. In G minor. If you're going to make claims, may as well aim for the summit." For a moment, he didn't move. Then he approached the bench like a soldier returning to the battlefield. He didn't bow. He didn't crack his knuckles. He didn't posture like a performer. He simply placed his hands on the keys. In the moment he played the first measure, Evelyn forgot she was the most powerful woman in the building. Forgot she was anyone at all. Because in that instant, the janitor wasn't a janitor. He was a storm. The final chord of the ballade thundered through the marble halls like the last echo of a war cry. The sound lingered in the air, refusing to die, as if the piano itself refused to return to silence. When it finally faded, Evelyn realized she was still holding her breath. Her fingers were gripping the back of a leather lounge chair so tightly that her knuckles had gone white. For a moment, she didn't move. Couldn't. The janitor, Samuel, he had said his name was, lifted his hands from the keys with reverence, as though letting go of something sacred. He sat still for a moment longer, shoulders rising and falling softly as the echoes settled. There was no smugness in his expression, no expectation of applause, just quiet, as though the piece had drained something from him. Finally, he stood. Evelyn swallowed, trying to retrieve her voice from wherever Chopin had flung it. "You," she managed, but no coherent sentence followed. "You what? You lied about being a janitor. You were a concert pianist. You just destroyed my entire understanding of reality." He simply picked up his cleaning cloth and said, in a tone far too casual for what he had just unleashed, "Didn't think I still had that in me." Evelyn blinked. Didn't think. That performance had been better than recordings she had purchased for thousands. It had been raw, wild, emotionally unhinged, and yet controlled. Every note understood, every pause deliberate. "You? Where? How?" she stammered. He glanced at her. "Warsaw Conservatory. Graduated top of my class." She stared. She had gone to Harvard, considered herself elite. But Warsaw Conservatory, the birthplace of Chopin himself, was the holy temple of classical pianists. It was where prodigies bled their fingers to earn their title. "And you, ended up here, cleaning my floors?" she asked, incredulous. Samuel shrugged. "Life's not always linear. That infuriated her. That's not an answer. He considered that. No, but it's the truth. She opened her mouth to press further. But he was already lifting the mop bucket handle. I'll be heading out now. Shift's over. Wait. Her voice came out sharper than intended. He paused. She stepped closer, heart pounding for reasons she didn't want to analyze. About what I said earlier. He raised an eyebrow. Your marriage proposal. Her cheeks flushed. It wasn't a proposal, it was sarcasm. Sounded like a contract to me. His eyes glinted. She faltered. For one terrifying moment, she thought he might actually demand she marry him. Instead, he said simply, "Don't offer your hand unless you're willing to lose it." Then he walked toward the exit. Evelyn felt something in her snap. Not anger, not embarrassment, something far worse. Curiosity. "Samuel," she called. He didn't turn fully, just glanced back. Her voice softened, unintentionally so. "Will you play again tonight?" There was a pause. Then, a quiet, "Maybe." He left. Evelyn stood rooted in place, heart thrumming like a second piano inside her chest. She had always believed power was control, precision, perfection, but that performance, that was freedom, and suddenly, she wanted more. The headquarters of Hawthorne Industries had never known such stillness. It was 8:10 p.m. Most employees had long gone home. The security lights were dim. Elevators slept. The lobby, usually a sterile monument of corporate power, now glowed under the soft amber lamps that reflected across the polished piano lid like candlelight. Evelyn sat at the piano bench, not touching the keys. Just waiting. She had never waited for anyone before. She was always the one people waited for. But tonight, she sat perfectly still, palms sweating like a nervous schoolgirl before a recital, glancing at the clock every 30 seconds. 8:12, 8:14, 8:16, then, click, the glass entry doors slid open. Samuel stepped inside, not in his janitor uniform this time, but in a dark wool coat. Clean shaven, hair combed, he looked dignified, not like hired staff, more like someone who belonged in a grand concert hall, bowing before applause. "You came," she said, standing involuntarily. "You asked," he replied. He approached slowly, hands in his pockets. He didn't look smug, didn't look shy, just steady, with that same quiet confidence that had rattled her earlier. Before sitting, he turned to her. "Before I play again," he said, "I need to understand something." She folded her arms instinctively, defensive. "What is it?" He studied her, not like an employee studying a superior, more like a musician studying a piece of music. "Why do you play?" She blinked. "What? That piano?" He nodded toward it. "You don't strike me as the type to play for show. You play when no one is watching." "Why?" Her throat tightened unexpectedly. She opened her mouth, then hesitated. No one had asked her that. Not in her entire adult life. To the world, she was CEO, strategist, leader, never simply Evelyn. People expected her to command, to analyze, to conquer. Not to explain her heart. She looked at the piano. Her voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "Because it's the only time I'm not performing for someone." He said nothing, just listened. "When I play," she continued, staring at the keys, "I'm not the boss. Not the daughter of a magnate. Not a headline. I'm just someone feeling things I don't know how to say out loud." Silence. Then, "That," Samuel said softly, "is the only valid reason to touch an instrument." He sat. This time, he didn't ask what she wanted to hear. He simply began playing. It was a nocturne, slow, tender, like moonlight settling on water. Evelyn's shoulders loosened, her heartbeat matched the tempo. And without warning, tears slipped from her eyes. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. She didn't hide them. When the final chord faded, she whispered, "What would it take for you to play like that every night?" "For me." He turned his head, meeting her gaze. "Truth, truth," she echoed. "No masks, no titles, no cold CEO. Just Evelyn." She swallowed. "And if I gave you that?" He rose from the bench, walked to her, stopped close enough that she could hear his heartbeat. Then, he said quietly, lips curved in the faintest smile, "I'll consider your marriage proposal." Her breath caught, and for once, Evelyn Hawthorne didn't calculate, didn't control, didn't think. She just smiled, and whispered, "Then sit down, Samuel. Let's start telling the truth."